people have like a really weird misunderstanding of what this movie's about. People think that this movie is about the mistreatment specifically of Vietnam veterans. Like, oh yeah, people just didn't like Vietnam soldiers back then because they were against the war. And I don't know like how you get to that conclusion, but it's like a complete misunderstanding of the movie.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Hey now, what's going on, gentlemen?
Yo,
Ahoy.
what's up?
Welcome back. Welcome back, folks. This is episode number 155, and it's that very special time of month. Again, no, Dusty's not on his period. It is Make Marvin Watch Day. That's right. For the month of November. And boy, do we have an egregious one, some would say. We're talking about First Blood today.
Yeah.
Which Marvin may or may not have seen before. We weren't sure.
Yeah. Do you want to clarify before we start? Have you seen the whole thing through and through, or you just seen bits and pieces of it?
I don't think I've seen I feel like I've seen maybe some of the other ones or something.
Gotcha.
The Rambo I remember was in a different country or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what Rambo I watched.
Gets him out of prison and takes him to Russia, where he does or Afghanistan.
You almost certainly remember the sequels, really, and what became of the franchise. And you wouldn't be alone in that. And that's what we're going to talk about later on, in fact, because a lot of people misremember this movie, thanks to the franchise that spawned from it. But I'm excited to talk about this one. I love this movie. And I haven't seen it in a really long time, so it was...
it's been a while for me, too.
Yeah, it was nice to go back and watch it with adult eyes. So stick around for that, folks. That'll be a banger. How was your week, gentlemen? Dusty, we actually lost you mid conversation last week. Why don't you give us a little brief synopsis on what you thought of Frankenstein?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was a good movie. Again, I watched it in two parts. I watched the first part one night and the second part one night, so maybe that's why it sat well with me. I don't know if I'd have enjoyed it much if I'd had to watch all 2.5, 3 hours of it in one sitting. But I like the way that they told the story from both perspectives. Again, it would have been nice for it to be a little longer and maybe just tell the Bride of Frankenstein part of it, make 3 parts. You could have made it a miniseries too, but... Oh,
where they go straight into Bride?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could have made it a miniseries. But it was good. I liked it. I thought it was good. I gave it an 8. So
an 8? Okay.
I don't know what, yeah.
That's higher than what Marvin and I gave it. We gave it a 7, which is in line with what it is on IMDb. I think, Marvin, you could remind me if I'm incorrect. But
was it like a 7.7 on IMDb? I think it was up there.
I think it's like a...
It might have come down the last couple
It's a 7.6. So yeah, we gave it a little downgrade. Marvin and I liked it, right? Marvin, you like we agreed that it was a great movie. It's just we didn't think that I don't know. It just felt like the emotional beats of the movie didn't sort of land.
Okay, that's fair. And I thought it was pretty well acted. I liked the story. I thought it was an interesting, like the men losing faith in the captain on the ship, and then being presented with this danger that they don't know what the it is, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, the acting was fantastic. That I agree with. But yeah. All right. Well, glad you liked it.
Yeah.
What have you guys been up to this week? Anything good? Anything interesting, exciting? Marvin, you watching anything good?
No, just the usual stuff. I did watch, what was it, the 3rd or 4th episode of Pluribus?
Yeah, me too. Dusty, have you started that yet or no?
No, actually, I have not had time. I had a busy week this week, so.
Okay, all right. Well, only a couple. The excuses are going to run thin. I'm just saying. Actually, I can't talk.
You know, I'm at a point right now where there's 3 episodes out. What is it going to be? 8?
I'm not 100% sure, but probably
maybe 10.
Yeah,
I might let it build up and binge it. I'm on the fence right now of whether to start it or just let it build up. So
it's very interesting. I'm not going to talk. I won't say spoilers, but one thing I did want to say is I love the show. I think it's fantastic, but I don't know why. And I haven't felt like that in a while. And that's not a bad thing that I'm saying that. It's not.
It's Gilroy.
No, it's just like, it's not a,
Gilroy.
it's like, so far it's not about anything. If that makes any sense. Marvin, do you without spoilers, do you feel what I'm saying a little bit? Or not really?
Yeah, I mean, they give you what it's about, and then it's kind of just like a weird character drama thing so far.
Yeah. Like,
It's not too much mystery. I mean, it's a little bit still, but
like
it's
just
good though, yeah.
just using his previous shows, right? Breaking Bad was about this guy who has cancer and is trying to like make money to leave to his family after he dies. And then it slowly morphs into, well, it's not about that. It's about this guy who's just got this like lust for power and this life that he felt he was cheated out of. Okay.
Right.
Better Call Saul is about a guy who is a talented man at being a swindler, Slippin' Jimmy. Like he's good at talking and like talking his way out of problems and getting kind of what he wants, who becomes a lawyer, tries to play straight, and then decides to like just become be what he is good at naturally. That's what those two shows are about. This is, like you just said, you nailed it. It's just a character drama, really. And the thing that's actually happening that I won't say is like really inconsequential to anything that's really going on. It's just the setup for, hey, here's this character.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting in that way. It's like I'm still really enjoying the show, and as a character story, it is very compelling, and I'm really enjoying it. It's just I'm surprised that as a series now, after 4 episodes, it really hasn't been about anything. So that's but
Yeah.
and again, I want to make it clear that's not me complaining. It's just surprising that that's the way he chose to tell the story. It's good. It's refreshing. It's different than what has been on TV a lot lately, especially shows that we all watch, like, you know, Severance, like, is very much about a thing. Each episode is building towards this like eventual reveal or something, right?
Is
Yeah.
it?
Well, we think it is, yeah. So that I don't know. In
you're
that
right.
sense, it's very refreshing and surprising. But ultimately, this show, I don't know if you also feel this, Marvin. I'm sure you do now that you're watching it with fresh eyes. But this feels just like one long X-Files episode to me, right? Like it has like a lot of the same principles that he probably picked up on in X-Files. Like it's straightforward enough, but it's like a little bit weird. Like it's got a little sci-fi. Well, it's not a little sci-fi. It is straight up sci-fi, but like the weirdness of it is very X-Files-ish.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So I'm loving it.
This is my birthday week, actually. Turned 45.
Wait, what?
Happy
Oh, wait,
birthday.
this week
Yeah.
coming up.
No. This last week. It was Wednesday or
Oh,
Thursday.
Oh, we got to get that
Yeah.
on the calendar. I didn't even realize. Happy
We
birthday.
gotta get that on the calendar.
That's all right.
What did you do? Anything fun?
Yeah. I last night I thought I was just going out to a nice steak dinner with my lady, and we get to the restaurant, and she's all, "You here for the party?" And I'm like, "What party?"
Oh, shit.
Oh, she spoiled it.
So I had about a dozen friends show up, and
Nice.
we all sat down and hung out, and some of them came back to the house, so we had a good time.
Nice.
I hadn't really watched
Nice.
a whole lot this week, but that was fun. I did watch Tron Ares. That is something that I did sit down and watch, and
Was it as bad as they
kind
say?
of it kind of fell flat as far as like the Tron movies go. I understand the story that they tried. It kind of makes sense, the story that they tried, but oh my God, Jared Leto, that poor bastard.
Really?
I thought he was better in Morbius than he was in Tron Ares, and Morbius didn't do too well either. But
It's Morbin time, baby.
yeah, but it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't. I wouldn't call it terrible, but yeah, I don't know. The poor guy. He's a good actor. He just takes on these weird roles. Like he's basically playing.
It has a good rating. It's got a
A pro.
6.5.
He's playing a program. Yeah, and you know, I like the storyline. I like it. It was a little flat all the way through. It had potential, but
Okay.
just didn't deliver for me. So not a great movie, but I guess if you like the Tron series, it might be worth.
I can't think
sitting
of a
through
thing
it.
I'm less interested in than the Tron series, if I'm being honest. I don't know why they're still making who are they making them for? Who's the audience?
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about like the Jurassic Park series,
Oh,
but
totally.
apparently the last one
I
did
feel
pretty well. I didn't like it.
I feel the same way about that series. Like, who the fuck? I mean, I know that audience is easier to pinpoint. Just like popcorn enjoyers who want to just go see like a blockbuster that don't really give a shit about anything. Tron is not that to me. I don't think. I mean, like, maybe I'm out of the loop, but like Tron is not a blockbuster movie in my opinion.
No, the first movie I think didn't do that well out of the gate. It caught on to become a cult classic, I want to say.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know what movie's getting shit on right now? Edgar Wright's Running Man, and I don't know if it's just like a Twitter thing. It's got a good rating on IMDb.
I read
Is
something
this like,
about
Hunger Games-esque?
Kind of. It's based on a Stephen King book, famously an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in the 80s.
Which also didn't do that well, if I remember. It did okay, but there were problems with the ending, like translating the ending from the book to the movie. Apparently they did something similar, but a little bit different than the original movie, and it still didn't really deliver what the book does. So
gotcha.
I think the original screenwriter he did an interview where he's like, yeah, the ending needs to be changed. Maybe in 10 or 20 years when they do it again, they'll get the ending right. But yeah, so it just kind of seems like nailing the ending is what it's going to be about.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, Marvin, you're not totally off. It's sort of Hunger Games-ish.
I just read a little blurb there. It looks like a little kind of in that same genre for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The Gamer is similar to that too, where you're like, was that Gerard Butler? Where he had to,
where he's like in the video game. I don't remember the name of that.
Has to survive in the video game. Yeah,
I think you're right.
Gamer.
I never saw that.
I haven't seen that.
I don't know if people are like having a hard time with Running Man because it's not like the Schwarzenegger one, because I know this one's very different. Edgar Wright has like commented on it. He's like, this is just another adaptation of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And people do like confuse that a lot. I notice like with movies like this that are based on books, like It is another good one. It's like the movie It, people call it a remake. It's not a remake of the TV series. It's just another adaptation of the book. So I don't know if that's what people are bumping into or what. I don't know. People generally love Edgar Wright. So I don't know if it's like just engagement bait to be like, oh, this is Edgar Wright and he's making bad movies now. Maybe he's done. I don't know. I'm sure
it's definitely engagement bait. Yeah.
That's I feel like it has to be, right?
It's funny to me because I feel like Stephen King stories are just a gamble in general.
Probably.
Like,
I mean, they're never adapted.
There's not a whole lot of great ones. Misery really is one of the better ones.
Yeah, we ran through them like a couple weeks ago, right? But no, for sure, there are more misses than hits. Which isn't an indictment of Stephen King's stories. It's just an indictment that people just want to adapt them and they just lazily throw them together.
It's difficult to land a Stephen King story to a film adaptation, apparently.
I'd imagine
how I look at it.
I would bet the majority of people don't even know The Running Man is a Stephen King story. I didn't even until recently. So I was surprised. I was like, what the fuck? So
he does everything.
He just does. He does everything.
He's got a lot of short stories out there.
Yeah, First Blood is based on a Stephen King story. No, I'm kidding. There's some interesting stuff this week that caught my attention. I wonder what caught yours. Let's get into some news. What do you got this week?
I thought I was going to do the news last night, but I had the surprise birthday dinner instead of a dinner date for two. So I did it this morning. I didn't collect a lot of links, but I got some stuff. So maybe there's some interesting stuff I saw that I didn't even put on. But yeah, we'll start with Spider-Man. Apparently, according to a rumor, Tombstone is set to be a key character in the next Spider-Man sequels.
Is he now?
According to Alex Perez of the Cosmic Circus, we've referenced these guys a few times. They do a weekly Q&A where they answer questions. They have some insider information that gets to be correct sometimes, but he says on Twitter, a cool thing I heard about the plans for Tombstone is to push him as a Spidey trilogy character rather than just a one and done type deal. Notice how I said character, not villain. Spectacular Spider-Man is the best example I can give to take the take they want to do. While Spidey will go toe to toe with the big man, it'll be interesting to see how much of their values kind of align, but have different approaches. Now, Tombstone, Marvin, he's like a indestructible type character. He's got bulletproof skin, superhuman strength. Okay. He was a hitman for a little while for Fisk in the comics, but apparently they're going to make him kind of a gray area character. It sounds like in the movies where he might start off with Fisk, but then not view what Fisk is doing isn't the right thing and become something in between of Fisk and Spider-Man.
Is this
what it sounds like?
Is this supposed to be for this like new set of Spider-Man movies that's coming up? Like, I'm so confused of like what's going on with these movies.
Yeah, he also, this is for the Spider-Man, the Tom Holland movies. So to trust that the goal for this next Spidey trilogy will be to have Spider-Man and Kingpin cross paths at some point. And funnily enough, Tombstone has a thing or two to say about Mayor Fisk and his plans to clean up New York City, but he's just biding his time. Brand New Day comes out July 31st, 2026. It seems like, it's coming out next summer.
And this is the one that the Punisher is in, the Hulk is inexplicably in, and like all this weird shit.
Correct.
And
there's another Spider-Man rumor that I didn't get the link to the news. I don't know if you had it in your.
I don't have it on Twitter, but I was going to bring it up.
Tobey Maguire being in the Avengers movie instead of Tom Holland because his character's quote unquote busy elsewhere.
I don't know.
No way.
I don't know what's going on over there. Well, all right, Marvin, we got to just let it out of the bag already if you don't know already. We got it because you're just never going to watch them. In the last Spider-Man movie, he's back. Your boy's back. Toby's back. I don't know if you know that.
I already know that. Yeah,
you did? Okay.
I already know that.
Yeah. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they show up because of multiverse stuff, and they help him. Basically, the plot of the last movie is villains from the old Spider-Man movies come into the MCU through some thing. And so do the Spider-Men to come help to our Spider-Man from the MCU. And it was a good movie. It was good. Now people are shitting on it because it's cool to do that. But like, it was a good movie. But I think somebody somewhere, I think in Sony was like, we got to make more of these because that shit made us a fuck ton of money. And that's where all the shit had started recently that we've been talking about here on the podcast where like, oh, Kevin Feige wants to do more of like a street level friendly neighborhood Spider-Man movie. But Sony wants to do another crossover multiverse type of movie. And so now it's all this like weirdness. And apparently in Doomsday, Toby's going to be in it, allegedly, not Tom Holland. So I don't know what the fuck's going on over there.
All right, let's go.
We don't
the
need
real
to,
Spider-Man's back.
We don't need to milk it though. Like he's old. He looks old. He looks old.
Yeah, he does.
And it worked for No Way Home. It was cool to see him back. It was pretty emotional. It was nostalgic. Got a couple of tears from your boy right here. But that's it now. We're good. We don't need to keep doing it.
Well, it seems like the multiversal movie, the Avengers movies we're going to see a lot of multiversal characters. So it makes sense that they might use him in that one and say Tom Holland's elsewhere, but
yeah, whatever.
Because they're using everybody. They're using people from X-Men. They're using people, from the Netflix series. They're using people from all the other stuff. But I don't know. The Spider-Man stuff feels to me like it's like a heroin addict chasing that first high. The original trilogy was such a banger. It had problems. Yeah. People really didn't like the emo Tobey Maguire.
No, people didn't like Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
It had its problems, but overall, it's still the bar that they're trying to get back to.
I love the new Spider-Man movies. I thought the MCU trilogy was very good, and I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think they did I think they've handled the character well for the story that they were telling, not being able to introduce him probably back when they wanted to. They had to introduce him later into the MCU. And I think they handled it well with Stark being his like mentor kind of guy. And I thought that was all fine. But the thing that I don't know, they like, we could talk about the issues with Marvel forever, but like part of it, and one of the big ones, is they haven't effectively been able to cross over their television and their movies. And they went hard on the television, hoping people would latch onto it as just independent projects like Loki and all these shows that are they're part of the MCU, but like they don't really have the interconnectivity that people were used to.
Loki does,
but like it's not the same as what I'm about to describe with what we saw in Peacemaker season 2, where it's like it's clearly a story of a continuous story thread. You know what I mean? Where like, and I know that not all of the DCU stuff is gonna be like that, but you don't really get a lot of the crossovers that we saw. Like, oh, here's Lex Luthor just like randomly for a scene or two to just set something like, I don't know, just it's like a different approach, and it's just a little bit weirder. Where it's like, oh, this is a Kamala Khan show, and like nobody's gonna show up. We're gonna mention them a lot, but we're not gonna show anybody. So like, the reason I'm bringing that up is because with this last season of Daredevil, like, there was a crazy thing going on in New York, and Spider-Man is just nowhere to be found. Like that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? And so now I'm hearing again, it's like, oh, Tom Holland's just somewhere else. Like where the fuck is he? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Doesn't it happen all the time in the comics though? Like
not
some
like that,
crazy
though.
shit will be happening, and obviously it's not gonna have like a crazy crossover in every comic.
Yeah, but it's more like what they did in Superman, where he's having that heartfelt conversation with Lois while they're fighting the interdimensional imp in the city behind him. And she's like, oh, you're not going to help them? And he's just like, nah, they got it. That's more of what happens in the comics, where like something's going on, but it's like, oh, that person's got it. We don't need to like get the Avengers together for that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, they'll intertwine the stories. Like you'll have a Spider-Man run while Spider-Man's dealing with all this shit. And then like the Avengers might show up in an issue, but then not again. But then if you go by the Avengers issues, Spider-Man might show up in those 5 or 6 times.
Did you watch
and help them out? So yeah.
Did you watch the last Daredevil episode, Marvin? I mean, the last Daredevil season, the most recent one. Okay,
I didn't. No.
So what I'm referring to is that like that season is about Fisk. Like he becomes the mayor, and it's like him essentially taking over the city and doing something crazy and nefarious that Kingpin would do. But the last episode is like the city goes dark, like it goes like black, lights out, like, and it's the city's, it erupts into chaos, and like the streets are flooded with Kingpin's goons, and like it ends with Daredevil like, we got to get a team together or something, which was alluding to the Defenders, which is
Heroes for Hire
with like Jessica Jones and stuff. But like, if the city is erupting into chaos, like that's not something Spider-Man would ignore, have being like the city's hero. You know what I mean? It's just bizarre that like you wouldn't just be like, hey Tom, here's like a couple $1 million. Can you just be in this for 5 seconds or something? I don't know.
Right.
But whatever. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. Interesting Spider-Man.
Would Sony even allow that?
Well, that's
being in it for 5 seconds.
that's the thing. That's the point, I think, is what that's the root of it, is probably they have to deal with what Sony will allow.
Yeah.
Not what they're probably
creative. It's not a creative decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely.
You're probably 100% right about that. Which
is
there was
something.
So sad. Yeah, it's very
something
sad.
I saw in relation. It was about the Venom. I guess they're making another Venom movie, or they want to.
Good, wonderful.
And I don't know. It's going to be like a standalone without Spider-Man in it, and they're kind of having trouble figuring out a way to tell that story.
Interesting.
Even though they've already done it 3 times.
I was going to say, why is it hard now? You already did it.
I don't know.
Because Sony doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. The fact that they've remained in business this long is crazy.
Yeah.
Larry Ellison needs to buy Sony. Fuck Warner Brothers, bro. Leave Warner Brothers out of it.
Oh yeah, I guess that I didn't have that in the news either. But apparently, the bids are in for Paramount, Skydance. They put their bid in, and Comcast and Netflix have also put in bids.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Comcast and
Let's
Netflix, they put in their bids just for the studio and streaming assets, but Skydance, Paramount put in their bid to buy the whole company. And apparently they got some Saudi backing to help fund
Let's
the
go,
shit.
Saudi. Get in there.
Let me get through this paywall real quick. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of news this week on the Warner Brothers stuff. So apparently it's down to like Netflix and I guess Skydance, Paramount, and Comcast. This was as per Variety. Warner Brothers Discovery has set a November 20th deadline for
the bids,
first round bids. Yeah, the board is expected to meet before Thanksgiving to evaluate the offers and aims to have the process wrapped up by year end. So there's like three legitimate contenders that are up to purchase it. And apparently, according to Bloomberg, the Netflix bid would include theater releases. So Netflix was like, hey, and which is interesting because Netflix, as you guys know, they are like anti-theater releases. They never want to release anything to theaters.
They've been coming around to it a little bit recently, though.
I don't know if that's the case or if they just got pressure from the filmmakers that they're trying to contract. Like Guillermo del Toro probably pushed to have Frankenstein released at least temporarily in theaters. I don't think that was probably a Netflix decision.
Yeah, I don't know because the AMC thing that they did, like they used to be staunch enemies with, and now they've kind of been allying it up. But with the K-pop Demon Hunter, they released it on Netflix. It was a big hit, and they were like, let's put it in the theaters with a sing along. They released it. They made a ton of money. They didn't have to disclose, I don't think, because it was them. And then they re-released it. So they're starting to, some things they're going to allow theatrical releases, and they're even building their own theaters for some of this shit.
Right.
You know, where you can go watch a series or whatever, rent it out.
Well, that was something we talked about a couple of years back, that Netflix wanted to create their own theaters and have like a theater, like a night out experience to watch their originals. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Variety also reported on that David Ellison's Paramount Skydance is bringing in, as you mentioned, new Middle Eastern partners to support its bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. The company has joined forces with the sovereign wealth funds of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to submit the offer. Each of the funds would put up $7 billion for a total of $21 billion. Paramount Skydance would front $50 billion for the Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition offer, for a total of $71 billion offer. Now, this...
Too big to fail.
Yeah. Now, this very coincidentally this news came very coincidentally. I just want to really stress that it's very coincidental that this happened at the same time that our illustrious president invited the Saudi prince to a White House ball or whatever the fuck they had there, some Great Gatsby shit. They rolled out a red carpet for him, got him a nice plane, and wouldn't you know it, Larry Ellison happened to be there with his son, I'm pretty sure. Elon Musk was there, you know, all the typical oligarchs.
Yeah. A lot of tech billionaires were there.
Yeah, the usual suspects. So just all very coincidental stuff. But yeah, it's cool.
No collusion whatsoever.
I'm sure a lot of Iraq veterans are happy that the architects of 9/11 were invited to the White House.
Yep.
A little weird, but yeah. Hey, listen, forgive and forget, right? That's what they say. So interesting stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. I guess if anybody's got to buy Warner Brothers, I would prefer it to be Netflix. If they're gonna commit to theater releases, like I don't want the Ellisons to own it for like political reasons. Like that dude, like everybody needs to understand. Like Oracle, like he owns Oracle. Oracle was originally designed for like the CIA and military. It's like it was like a intelligence thing that's still being used today. Now with AI, And like he just wants to absorb everybody's information like at all times. Like that's the end goal here. And he also happens to be one of the top donors to another country's military that may or may not be doing something really awful right now. I won't name any names because I don't want a drone strike on my house right now. But I'll leave that to you guys. So yeah, interesting stuff. I don't know, a lot of weird shit going on these days.
Weird shit.
Weird stuff. But yeah, that's the Warner Brothers Discovery stuff for this week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll have an answer soon about who's going to be the new owners. I have a sneaking suspicion that it will not be Netflix, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So what else you got this week, Dusty?
All right. Well, we got Zach Kreger giving us an update on his Gladys prequel spinoff in a Deadline's Crew Call podcast interview. He said that the Aunt Gladys prequel is still in development and remains an idea he's actively exploring. Quote, we're still kind of in the deal making process. So I don't think there's much that I'm allowed to say at this point. But the story is what I'm pretty excited about. So still in pre-production or pre-development. No word on when it's going to start, but should be soon. I imagine they're going to get this deal done. They liked weapons, so
of course
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
How do we feel about this? This is one of those things where it's like you kind of say like, oh man, like after you watch the movie, it's like, oh man, I would like to know more about Gladys. And then you hear about this and it's like, oh man, they shouldn't actually do this.
I'll tell you something. I didn't walk out of that movie theater when I saw Weapons saying, damn, I need to know more about Aunt Gladys. Like now, make a movie about her. In fact, I think I was pretty clear about that. I liked the movie because we didn't really know anything about her, right? You know, I don't know how many times I got to harp on that shit here on the show, but like that's what I liked about that movie is that it just happened, and that's that. It's over. Story's over, folks. Go home.
Exactly.
It leaves you with those questions though of like,
of course,
man, this lady's crazy. Where did she learn this? You know, how did she figure out?
But that's
how to
what
do
makes
that?
it. Yeah,
well,
that's what makes it good though. When you have the question, not when you get the full explanation on a platter.
Here's a good example. 3 classic horror movies, right? Of course, I got to start with Halloween.
Of course.
Well, I mean
it's only right.
It is only right, but it's also a perfect example. You know, he falls out the window. Loomis looks over. He's gone. Movie ends. Everybody go home. See you next time. Now, do we want a prequel that explains why he went, like why he snapped when he was a kid and killed his sister and then broke out and like stalked Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, do we need that? No. That dilutes the character, in my opinion.
It can, yes.
Check Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You take the original as it is. Oh, psycho hillbilly family chopping people up and eating them. Do we need a prequel to explore the family dynamic, to see what it was like for Leatherface growing up in that household? No, of course not. And final example, Black Christmas. Do we need that? And that's probably the best example because Billy from Black Christmas is probably the most mysterious killer probably in the history of horror movies. You don't even see his face in that movie.
Right.
Except like his eye at one point. So like, do we need a movie that goes back and like shows him how he became who he like? No, it just ruins the thing for me anyway. I don't know. So I get that this is a little bit different, but I still think Weapons was strengthened by the fact that like there's a mystery behind it. It's just that, oh, she's a witch and she's probably pretty old. And just little key elements that you pick up on just through the storytelling, and that's it. Then the movie's over, and that's that. That was it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is going to be bad. I'm whatever. He makes good movies. I'm sure it'll be fun and fine. It's just it wouldn't be my first choice. I'd be like, hey, go make a different movie because you have good ideas.
That's fair. But you know, sometimes you sign deals with studios and then they get lean on you and which direction you go in a couple of those movies. But
and she was great as Aunt Gladys. People loved her. Like I know she was a standout character. This doesn't feel to me too. The last thing I'll say about it is that it doesn't feel to me like this was the intent. It wasn't like he was like, man, you know, I'm going to make this movie and introduce this character, and I have like this whole backstory to tell about her, which I think is really interesting. that would be fine for me. I think I would be able to accept that a little bit more. But this feels more like what you just said of like, oh, that movie did really well. How do we milk it
that's
now?
what it is.
So,
For sure. Yeah. The classic.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't know. But whatever. We'll see. Whatever.
All right.
My heart's so broken. Let's
Speaking of milking it,
story.
Mr. Neil Moritz, the veteran producer behind the Fast and the Furious franchise, is in negotiations to take on a job of restarting TMNT as a live-action film franchise for Paramount Pictures. Now, we just recently watched the live-action TMNT on a Make Marvin watch.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was great. And they're going to reboot it again. I guess they tried to in what it was, 08.
Yeah.
And that one fell flat. It was terrible. And so they did the animation movies, which were well received. But yeah.
Well, you're missing a crucial element to this story, Dusty. And that
crucial.
The multiple sources say Paramount wants to Sonicify the TMNT franchise.
No, that in addition to this, the live action Last Ronin adaptation.
Oh, I got that. Yeah.
That was coming is no longer happening. Apparently,
back in the pizza box. Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy who had directed Nobody was in talks to direct the film. And so I guess instead of adapting this classic, beloved, fantastic story from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe, they're deciding to reboot the entire franchise into some Fast and Furious slop that is going to do terrible. And then everybody's going to be like, the movie industry's failing. We don't understand what's happening. I understand what's happening.
Well, they do say the regime wasn't keen on having the first non-animated movie in 10 years be a bloody adult skewing story, i.e. The Last Ronin. One insider also said the studio wants to leave the door open to possibly revisit this down the road. So they're just shelving it for now. But yeah.
They're lying.
And let me tell you something. You know, you bring this up a lot, Dusty. You have with Disney live action remakes of their classic cartoons. Okay, it's not live action when you have CGI lions instead of cartoon lions.
Correct.
They're just a different type of cartoon. Okay, so to call it live action is stupid.
And they could be wearing prosthetic outfits. We don't know.
And they're milking... No, hang on. And they're milking everybody, okay, when Disney does that shit. Here's a live-action movie of Aladdin. All right, that's different. That's like human people. But a live-action story about lions that talk is stupid, all right?
It's not live action if it's digital pixels of a lion.
Right, which brings me to my next point. If they're going to reboot this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, if they don't do practical effects like they did on the original movie from the 90s, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see CGI turtles because that's not live action. Okay?
Right.
I'm sick of this shit. I've had enough. Damn it. And like,
let a naysayer know.
I mean, we talked about it when we watched the movie. Like, it looked so much better despite being, you know, simple prosthetics and goofy looking sometimes. It still looked way better than that shitty ass remake they did or reboot they did like a couple years back, TMNT. Those two movies, those two abominations. I don't want to see another CGI thing. Like I just don't. So if you're gonna reboot it and do it well. Like put some effort into it.
Yep.
And we're supposed to be getting a sequel to the cartoon, which we all liked. The animation, what is it, Mutant Mayhem? So I'm excited for that. But
that one,
yeah, like. Don't call it a live action if you're not going to have humans in a suit. Like, I'm tired of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
True. Get Corey Feldman back. No, this was disappointing. I was really looking forward to the Last Ronin. It's, I don't know, very, very bizarre business decision. But I guess they're worried more about like franchising and like, okay, so. You know, can we build off of a Last Ronin story? Yeah, of course you can. If you just have some sort of molecule of creativity in your body.
I don't understand how Deadpool doesn't prove to these studios that they can take adult themes and put them in a movie and make it R-rated and it will still be a success.
People love R-rated shit. Deadpool and Wolverine is like one of the most profitable Marvel movies there is. or just the Deadpool movies too. I don't know. It's weird. And, you know, you would think that with the success of Superman, they would take a page out of James Gunn's book. Like, again, that movie, right? It's not an origin story. It's just like, it just drops you into a week in the life of Superman. The way comic books do. You don't pick up a comic book. If Marvin started reading Superman tomorrow, he's not starting on Superman #1. He's going to be, I don't know, Superman 1000.
Just sold for like $10 million, by the way.
Yeah. I was selling that because at auction. Imagine that. Imagine finding a $8 million book in
Grandpa,
your attic.
Oh, shit. You got this?
I mean, it's impressive that it's that much money, but what's more impressive is it's the highest quality one in existence that we know of, which is really shocking that it was preserved. But yeah, so it's like comic books, like they everybody has, anybody who's ever picked up a comic book in their lives, you're not starting at the beginning of the story. So like, which I suspect franchising is their thing of like, well, how do we make a sequel if this is really good? Well, The Last Ronin's like a pretty independent story. Well, okay, so what? It's just a story within these characters' lives, and then you just go on and make a new one and then tell more stories. Like, who cares? I don't know. People got to get over that whole like setting up thing. I don't know. Whatever.
Canonized.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm upset though.
Okay.
I was excited for that. But everything I love gets crushed.
Speaking of James Gunn, Lanterns has been delayed.
Oh yeah.
During a press presentation on Thursday, Casey Bloys, chairman and CEO of HBO and HBO Max Content, revealed that Lanterns will premiere towards the end of summer 2026, rather than the originally scheduled early 2026 debut. It's likely going to air after Supergirl and before Clayface. I think Supergirl is June 26th. Clayface is September 11th. So this was going to be the first DC thing we got next year, but apparently it's going to be after Supergirl now. They bumped it to the summer.
This is getting some real insufferable commentary surrounding it. We talked about it a little bit. Well, we talked about it a little bit last week, that people are just being like really weird about how dare he make a Jimmy Olsen show, or how dare he make a show about other characters we've already met and established that they're doing a thing like the Rick Flag Sr. show, where it's about him going after more metahumans and sending them to the same planet he sent Peacemaker to. So people seem to take issue with the things that James Gunn is choosing to do at this point. But with this show specifically, I've been seeing like complaints about like, man, I wish we could just stop with the grounded in realistic takes on characters. It's like, first of all, what about the DC things that James Gunn has given us so far makes you think that he's doing anything grounded in reality? Superman was not grounded in reality. Peacemaker,
he sent him to another universe, planet,
right?
Whatever.
Not grounded in reality. Creature Commandos, certainly not grounded in reality. But they're basing it off of this single screenshot. That this is the only thing of this show that we've seen. Them walking.
Are you kidding me?
In clothing, yeah, on like So
there's no way.
Yeah, I saw a whole conversation about it of like, man, this is not going to be good. It's not going to be good if they don't. It's like, dude, just please shut up. I hate everything and everyone.
Me, when I see superheroes walking, just lose my fucking mind.
Yeah. How could they do this? They also had a problem with what's his name as Hal Jordan. Forget this actor's name, but Oh, Kyle Chandler, because like, well, he's too old to play Hal Jordan. James Gunn even responded to this recently. He was just like, look, this was the script. He's like, the script called for like an older version of the character, and I really liked it, and that's the story we're gonna tell. So that's it. Like, get over it.
Get over it.
People are crazy.
We were in sync there.
Yeah, we were. Hell yeah. And he said he really liked Aaron Pierre. In fact, how couldn't you? I know. He originally said he thought of Aaron Pierre to play Adam Warlock in Guardians 3. But it didn't work out. That would have set the world on fire. A black guy who's going to be gold in a movie and his race doesn't even matter? Fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for Lanterns. The show sounds awesome. It's like a fucking detective show. It's supposedly like True Detective, but like with the Green Lantern Corps. Awesome. Sign me up.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was about, but that sounds good.
They're investigating a murder on Earth, I think.
Yeah.
Weird, strange murder.
Sucks that it got delayed, but whatever. Let them cook, you know?
Yeah,
Make it good. That's it.
Yeah.
Still next year. So yeah.
James Gunn's been committed to story, not dates, and that's good.
Facts.
True.
Can't meet the deadline? Fuck it.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll continue the conversation of milking IPs and not meeting deadlines. And
sure, let's get into
the
it.
king
like
of not
that.
meeting deadlines or releasing anything ever.
R. Martin, he revealed the status of his Game of Thrones storyline with HBO, confirming there are multiple projects in development still, aside from the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and House of the Dragon. There are other Game of Thrones spin-off projects in development. Most are prequels. There are several in development,
that's good.
5 or 6 series. And I don't develop them alone, but I am working with other people. Yes, there are some sequels. So we got some prequels and some sequels. There's 5 or 6 that are in development. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to come to fruition, but he's never going to finish the Game of Thrones book because he's just doing side quest right now.
He's just he's just getting that money. That's really what it is.
Real quick, what kind of fucking picture is this? Was this taken on like a Motorola Razr? This guy's face is completely blurred. This looks like a picture of like somebody took a Bigfoot. Like,
Could
what is
be
this?
a shoddy cell phone camera.
I don't know what that is. Yeah,
This
this
is
one.
the-
Yeah, I don't know what's his deal. So what is he like? Supposedly there's the new series in the works, but it's based on a book that he hasn't finished. Is that what it is?
Well, he hasn't finished the Game of Thrones storyline. He's been writing the last book for like the last 15 years.
So the end of the Game of Thrones series is not. That was a departure from the book, right? And that's why people hated it.
They finished it without him. He gave some input, but they basically rewrote. They made it what they wanted it to be.
But his book series of Game of Thrones is not finished.
Correct.
And so the people are waiting on him to finish it.
Right.
But are they going to make a new series based on his ending of the book or no?
No, they're not going to they won't remake Game of Thrones for a long time. It's such a good they can just sell what they have, but these prequels and sequels of characters that people do care about is what they're going to milk. So
HBO
like we might get an Arya Stark prequel or sequel, or we could get a Jon Snow prequel, or we don't know what we're getting, but
interesting. But
we'll
what's your last piece of news, Dusty? What do you got for us?
all right, well, we talked about Stallone last week about Rambo being rebooted and his thoughts on the new actor. That spurred us to watch the movie this week. But since he's in Tulsa King, he's still in the news. He did an interview recently where he looks back and reflects a little bit on regret, specifically where it pertains to passing on or not getting certain roles. I guess he singled out passing on Peter Weir's Witness with Harrison Ford. He apparently had the opportunity to play the lead role, a choice that nags precisely because the film went on to win Oscars for its screenplay and editing. But yeah, I don't know. He also talked about Pulp Fiction and Die Hard, which I think would have been interesting movies with him in them.
Yeah.
Now, I think Stallone's a great actor. He struggles sometimes, and it comes off in all his movies. You can go Rocky, this one, any of them. There are times where it's like, oh, he didn't really nail that part. But he's a great actor. I think Harrison Ford was better in Witness than he would have been. So I'm kind of glad he didn't get that one. I'm sure he regrets it because it's an Oscar winner, but
yeah,
interesting to see like the roles he was up for that he passed on or lost.
Yeah. One of my favorite roles of his that was never his role was Terminator. And you might be saying, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, Marvin, in a movie that I'm sure you've never seen, The Last Action Hero, a great movie. Dusty, you've seen this, right?
Yeah.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger. Written by Shane Black, directed by John McTiernan, who we've recently talked about because we were talking about how the fight I got in with other YouTubers about Predator. John McTiernan directed Predator. He directed Die Hard. Well, Last Action Hero is about this kid who gets teleported into the fictional world of his favorite action hero.
Through the movie theater, right?
Through the movie theater, yeah. And he's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, in this fictional universe, because Arnold Schwarzenegger did not play Terminator, and there's a scene where they're in like a video rental place, and there's the movie poster for Terminator 2, but it's Stallone as Terminator. And it's always been very funny to me just seeing that, like, what could have been reality if another action star had gotten that role. So yeah, that's my favorite role Stallone never got. Let me see if I can find a picture of that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Classic.
All right. I'm surprised he's 80. I'm not surprised. I didn't, when I say surprised, I mean, like, I didn't realize he was that old.
Stallone,
yeah. His birthday just passed, I think. Like, he just recently turned 80.
He's an old man.
He's been in some bangers, and we're here to talk about one. So, Dusty, thanks for the news. Appreciate you. Mm-hmm. Everybody, leave a like for Dusty's news reporting. Let's get into this week's review. And it is a Make Marvin Watch Day, baby. Marvin's never seen anything.
Yeah. Might as well just say that.
He's seen some stuff now.
He's getting there. We're doing work. But we found out last week he may or may not have seen First Blood. So Dusty thought, hey, it's time. So this week is Dusty's pick, and he chose First Blood. Now, here's the thing nobody ever talks about when they talk about First Blood. The movie that everybody remembers isn't really the movie that actually exists, because the sequels completely rewired the pop culture image of John Rambo. And since Marvin is coming into this one with fresh eyes and no franchise baggage, well, he has a little bit of franchise baggage because he said he really visually remembers the image of Rambo from the sequels, which is, shirt off, sweaty, dual wielding machine guns and shit. But since this is his first time watching it, it's the perfect chance to look at what the original film is actually doing. People think it's that shirtless machine gun explosion fest version of Rambo, and they also think it's a story about soldiers being hated because of the Vietnam War. But the real movie is something much darker, about a decorated Green Beret who comes home from Vietnam and is abandoned by the system that made him. And he ends up homeless, and he's hunted not because people hate Vietnam veterans, but because he doesn't fit the picture of what a soldier is or what they used to be. So we're digging into that movie today. The one that people think they've seen versus the one that actually exists, and why First Blood hits completely different when you watch it without all the franchise noise attached to it. Admittedly, I've not seen many of the sequels. I couldn't even tell you which of the sequels I've seen. They all kind of blend together. They're very much the same movie, in my opinion. I know in the sequel, he like gets out of jail and goes back to, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. But yeah, First Blood. This is the first one. If you like around and find out movies, Marvin, this is the one. This kind of not started the trend. There were ones before this for sure, but this one is the one that kind of like really pushed it into the pop cultural zeitgeist. And as I said, John Rambo is a drifter. He's kind of coming through this podunk town. I believe it's in Oregon, because they mentioned Portland, or they're close to Portland. It's somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and he's traveling to meet one of his former, I guess, platoon mates. And sadly, he finds out that guy died of cancer. And as he's sort of just like roaming around town looking for a bite to eat, the local sheriff, played by Brian Dennehy, Sheriff Teasel, he kind of like runs him down and is like, hey, man, people won't take too kindly to somebody looking like you around here, so let me escort you out of town. I'll give you a ride. Drops him off. Rambo doesn't like that, goes back into town, and the sheriff and his goons basically harass John Rambo, chase him into the hills and the woods, and Rambo has to fight back. But there's a shift in the movie at some point where that we'll get to. But that's basically the plot of this. And Dusty, why don't you start since you made us watch it this week? What are your brief thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, this is a great film. I think I was talking about it before we started talking about how Stallone struggles sometimes. Now I'm just going to jump to the end where he does that dialogue with Troutman. It starts off a little shaky, but then he really dives into it, and you can feel the presence of what he's struggling with there, and it's just a great story.
Yeah.
This is also a big reason why I'm not a big fan of just government in general, because this is a guy who thinks this is my town. I'm going to run it how I want. I don't give a shit if this guy is a decorated war hero. I am the law. And I will do as I see fit. So, it's a good warning sign of how our hubris and our corruption can turn a sour eye to somebody who doesn't deserve that sort of malevolent fire. So yeah, love this movie. It's great.
Nice. Yeah, it's one that obviously Rambo now is like a pop cultural icon. And I'm curious, Marvin, your expectation going into it, was it that you were going to be watching this crazy 80s action movie?
No. So yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of the sequel,
okay,
Rambo 2, where he goes back to Vietnam, I believe, in that one, right?
I don't know where he goes. He gets,
but it's somewhere very foresty, Vietnam-esque.
The colonel gets him out of jail to go rescue some, I think goes back to Vietnam to rescue some POWs, and his girlfriend dies or some crazy shit. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's what I was expecting.
In the third one, I think. Yeah.
I was expecting generic action, but what I got was way better.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot. I like the slow intro of the movie and how it was like how people look down upon drifters or homeless people. It wasn't necessarily that he was, because he didn't even know he was a soldier at first. He just thought he was literally just like a homeless person.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that buildup was good. It kind of felt like they were itching to get a little bit to the action though. I feel like I wanted to see more of maybe this slow build-up piece. Because it was a very short movie. It was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I could have seen a little bit more build up to it, because to me it just kind of felt like they were oh man, I can't wait to get to the action part.
I think the intro, I'm glad you mentioned the intro. I think the intro to this movie is one of the most iconic intros ever in movie history.
Yeah.
Just him walking down that road to the Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack. Jerry Goldsmith was the composer on this. You might remember that name, Marvin, because he did the fantastic soundtrack to Chinatown. He did.
It was a great soundtrack too. Yeah.
Yeah, he did the score to Omen, which we've watched here. So, obviously,
yeah, I like that it was 80s. Just speaking on the soundtrack, right quick, it was 80s, but it wasn't rock songs. It was still more of the, I don't even know how the composition to describe it, but it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a dramatic, it's I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it either, but it is more dramatic.
It wasn't like guitars and stuff. It was more an actual soundtrack. Right. Yeah.
But you're right. This is an action movie. It's not an action movie, but
for sure.
It's really about, isolation and trauma and systemic failure, as Dusty pointed out, and really
escalation and de-escalation as well. There's
and PTSD. This movie is based on a book that came out in 1972, which was closer to the Vietnam War than the movie. The movie was released in 1982. But back then, people didn't know what PTSD was. We didn't even call it PTSD. We called it shell shock, I think, after Vietnam. So when people came home from Vietnam, they were shell shocked. They were just, they're fucked from war. But we didn't really understand the actual mental toll that took on people. And this movie is one of the first times, at least that I'm aware of, that really kind of shone a light on that. And that's really what the movie's about. Now, surprisingly, I mentioned in the intro that people have like a really weird misunderstanding of what this movie's about. And not in the sense that they're, recognize the character from the sequels more than this movie, but the fact that people think that this movie is about the mistreatment specifically of Vietnam veterans. And I was reading Reddit threads and stuff like that, and it's a lot of people like really just spreading this like misinformation, like, oh yeah, people just didn't like Vietnam soldiers back then because they were against the war. And I don't know like how you get to that conclusion, but it's like a complete misunderstanding of the movie. And it's derived, I think, from the dialogue that the sheriff says to him. He's like, he says something along the lines of like, that flag and that jacket, people won't like somebody like you, looking like you in this town. And people think that that's about him being a veteran, but we got to remember at this point, the sheriff doesn't know that he's a veteran. He just
That's
sees
what I was saying, yeah.
He just sees a guy in a military jacket. Now, if you think about the time that the Vietnam War happened, that is the clothing of liberal hippies who were against the war. Okay? And he's got long hair and he's unkempt. So he's seen as a homeless drifter, and B, probably some like hippie liberal protester. And this is a conservative town. He's like, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. It's not about the fact that like, oh, this town, this one conservative town happens to be anti-war. That's not what's going on here. So
no, but they allude to, like, he says it at the end of the movie and in the monologue, he talks about getting back to the airport and people spitting and hissing and all that stuff. So they make a point to bring attention to it. But I agree with you. It's not solely about that, but his struggle to find a place is just another enumeration of his struggle to be able to do that. Is like, well, this cop thinks I'm some hippie because how I'm dressed and everything, and I've already been spit on by people because they didn't. This was before support our troops. Now people are like, yeah, we'll support the troops, but we hate the government that sends them to kill people. Yeah, this was before all that, so there was a disdain for people that were actually getting drafted, no choice of their own, and going over there to fight. And it was pretty nasty.
We'll actually get into that a little bit more because there's some interesting history to that. But yeah, so like, it is about that, like you said, that this guy who's kind of like lost and doesn't really have a way in life. And so, the movie, I mean, beside the action stuff aside, if you really want to nail that sort of message, it kind of hinges on Stallone's performance. And I thought, you mentioned his, the big dialogue at the end there, which I think he does nail. While it's a little bit like, I'm not going to say cheesy, but it is a little bit like, it's got a little 80s cheese to it.
The very beginning has a little, nothing is over.
but his performance in this movie, I think, is great.
It is.
Because he doesn't perform like an action star in this movie. He's actually very restrained, very quiet. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the movie up until the end, really. He's got one really badass line where he says to the Teasel, he's got the knife to his neck, and he's like, don't push it or I'll give you a war you won't believe. Let it go. That shit was bad. If somebody told me that with a knife to my neck, I'm out. Dude, was like, all right, enjoy the woods. Sorry, my bad.
That big ass knife. Yeah, I'm out of there.
He continuously shows restraint every time that violence is escalated against him. He tries to de-escalate until he can't. I mean, like, he didn't do anything wrong. The guy fell out of a helicopter shooting at him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's what he said. Like, when he's talking to the colonel, he's like, he just kept pushing. Like, he kept pushing, and then he just go into Green Beret mode. It's like nothing else you could do at that point. It's just over.
And what's interesting,
I like that how he portrayed it. Like you said, it's not like a general action star. Like, he was pretty smart. Like, he was doing like smart shit with the guerrilla warfare throughout the movie. And that was like definitely different than like a generic like action movie for sure.
He's doing what he's taught to do, is to survive. Yeah. Right? First and foremost, survive. Otherwise you can't do your mission. And so you realize during the movie, he doesn't fire a single bullet to kill anybody in this movie. He everything he does is to distract or to evade or to, like, make people like afraid to back off. He's never firing like kill shots in this movie, which is interesting to look back on it now, because again, the franchise just becomes something entirely different. But yeah,
Lucky
so
he didn't have his bow and arrow, and
that's what does he have? He has like a compound bow, right? In like the later ones. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, a lot of that is also, you know, strengthened by the cinematography of the movie and like the setting. It's in this cold like wilderness where, you know, it just kind of emphasizes like how exposed he is. There's scenes where he's like shivering and he's cold and he's got to like make makeshift fires and torches, and he gets trapped in a cave and like all this stuff. All while suffering like really traumatic like PTSD flashbacks. I thought it was really funny at one point. There is some 80s cheese to this movie. There's no doubt about it. You know, you mentioned the guy falling out of the helicopter. That one is the scream that guy lets out. Is like is so funny. But what one scene really made me laugh. He's in a junkyard at one point or something, and like just there's graffiti in the background, and somebody just spray painted just the word Satan. Like, because like back in the 80s, that's like, oh my God.
That was the trigger word.
That's crazy. Like, imagine the absolute badass that tagged that up. Just Satan.
Randomly.
Yeah. Very funny to me.
That is funny.
And there's some interesting like camera stuff that happens, and I don't really know why it happened or if it was editing or whatnot. I didn't even look into it, but there's some weird transitions in the movie where like, you know, 1 minute it's storming outside, and then the next second it's like just not raining at all. Towards the end of the movie, like the start of the scene that doesn't end, it's a continuous scene. It's daytime, and then like it's cut and it's immediately night. But like in the movie, like a couple of minutes has passed. So there's
clearly the same like 30 minutes or some shit.
Yeah, there's some very bizarre stuff like that. But overall, I think the cinematography in this movie is like really well done.
I thought it was actually really done, but it was mostly like the setting itself was really nice with like the mountains in the back and stuff. That definitely helped a lot.
The book actually takes place, I believe, in Louisiana. I'm not 100% sure. It's something more southern. So it's interesting that the movie set it in the Pacific Northwest. But even still, it can. Oh, and in the book, Teasel was a Korean War veteran, and his hatred of Rambo comes from the fact that he kind of sees him as like unkempt, like you're not what a soldier should look like type of thing. But the movie doesn't do that, and I actually like it better for it. But, you know, talking about the PTSD stuff, like that really reframes the story, right? When he has that one flashback in prison, that's when you realize like, oh, this isn't actually really like a action movie. Like it is, but like it's not really about that. It's about this guy who like he's not only fighting for survival, but like there's times where he probably can't discern reality from his trauma, right?
Yeah,
when
sure.
He's the first one is in the prison when he's getting like they're fighting with him, and he has flashbacks to being in a prison camp in Vietnam, and then there's a couple of other flashbacks when he's in the cave later on.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's really like the anchor of the movie, that it's kind of showing you like who this guy is and like what he's doing and why. So going back to what we were talking about, Dusty, like, you know, you and I both echoed the same sentiment, is that this is a story about a system that failed soldiers, not really how society failed soldiers, which is the story that was told. And this was super interesting, and I never realized this. Everybody has kind of heard, well, maybe not everybody, but the story of like soldiers being spat on when they came home from the war. I did a little investigating into that, and turns out it's actually a complete myth. There's no historical context or evidence that has been researched like very deeply by historians and reporters and stuff. There's actually like no recorded evidence of this happening. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm sure there was some disrespect that
from some protesters, most likely, but not the general
people who were against
imagine.
the war were also against the warriors back then.
They were called baby killers and stuff like that. Correct. But this specific myth of the being spit on, it seems more likely that it was actually a propaganda campaign to basically spin the the to spin the narrative that people were against not the war itself, but the actual soldiers fighting the war. Like that was our government spreading propaganda to be like, look, these hippie liberals hate the soldiers. They don't respect our soldiers. But really what the majority of people's issue was that we were fighting an illegal war. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That was interesting. I never knew that before. Like I've heard the stories about Vietnam vets being mistreated and stuff like that. But I have the Wikipedia article up here, and whatever, it's Wikipedia. But it says here,
when haven't veterans been mistreated in American history though? That's like,
but that's the thing, right? They're mistreated 100%, but by our own government.
It's yeah, for sure. I mean, it could be both technically, right? Like.
You could, yeah.
It's up to the government to like put systems in place that like rehabilitate them and stuff. But it is up to society and people too to also like your fellow man,
absolutely,
to help them back up. Yeah,
totally. Like we have a like now in real life we have a big homelessness issue. A lot of homeless people are veterans. Like people come home from war, they're not given the tools to adequately like reestablish themselves back into society. And if you've seen action like John Rambo has, it's not easy to do that. You need like therapy and like counseling and stuff to deal with these severe traumatic things you've experienced and get yourself back into society. Like you shouldn't be sent to war and then come home and be homeless and jobless and not have anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some people may not agree, but like similar, there's parallels with that with people coming back from prison. Like there's 100%, no systems.
Absolutely.
And even on a different thing, like people that deal with like gang wars and shit in their own neighborhoods where like, I lost 10 friends this year. Like there's not a lot of systems in place to rehabilitate people with PTSD, like period. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, we still don't fully understand how to reacclimate people into a quote unquote peaceful, civilized society when they've gone through such severe traumatic violence.
Right.
And the interesting thing, it was not interesting, but like, we hear today a lot of like conservative rhetoric specifically, which is like support the troops, support the troops, support the troops. Well, we don't support the troops at all because they come home from your wars, not conservative wars, just our government wars, and they're just not given adequate anything. And it's a tragedy. And that's really,
they're killing themselves out in front of VA hospitals because they're not getting treatment.
Right. And that's like really, and look at like one of the campaigns like Jon Stewart was doing, with like some helping support burn pit victims. Like, like these people have like vicious diseases because they were, stationed in Iraq,
ingesting toxic fumes from burn piles. Yeah.
Oh, you're home now? Okay, see ya. Like we're not gonna like. It's fucking crazy.
Welcome home.
And that's really what this movie is sort of shining a light on because, when the sheriff does find out that he is a decorated veteran, what is he? He has the medal. Is it the Medal of Honor? I don't remember.
Congressional Medal of Honor, yes.
Which is the highest honor a soldier could get. I believe it's not the Purple Heart. Purple Heart's like up there, but
that's just injured. Yeah, the Congressional Medal of Honor or Freedom
means you like saved somebody, right? I believe. Yeah. So it's like the highest honor you could get as a veteran. And once the sheriff finds that out, he's like, whatever, I'm unfazed by that. Which again deepens it shows the disrespect. That's where the disrespect comes in. Is like I'm unmoved, I'm unwavered by this information. It is cool that this movie probably invented that trope of like, that the thing we see in John Wick and like, so famously in these around and find out movies now where it's like, sir, we just found out like he's, that's Baba Yaga. Like I once saw him kill a whole bar full of men with a pencil. Like that moment of like, oh shit, like we around with the wrong dude. You know what reminds me a lot of this movie? And I didn't realize it when we first watched it, Dusty, but I've seen it several times since. But what was the movie with Aaron Pierre that we watched last year that we loved? Rebel Ridge. Rebel Ridge takes a lot of beats from this movie. It does.
Yeah.
Especially with the de-escalating and not like actually killing.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of inspiration there.
But briefly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say Brian Dennehy, I think killed it in this. He's been in a couple, like FX is a great set of movies, 1 and 2, both good.
This was his breakout.
Tommy Boy is a good one. Cocoon is something I'm always gonna remember him from, but this is like one of his one of his premiere roles. And I don't know, I think you say it earlier that this is about like a system failing, and it is somewhat, but this is also about somebody digging their heels in, like somebody within the system not wanting to be wrong, not believing, just believing in his heart that he's right and it doesn't matter because he's the law.
Yep.
Like the ignorance of that like is expounded. So
totally.
You kind of see that oh shit on his face, but also you kind of see that I don't care because this motherfucker's gonna die, and he questions the general Troutman or whatever. He's like, "Would you kill him?" He's like, "I don't know."
Yeah, and the only one who really was like somewhat like a decent person was David Caruso's character Mitch, who was like he was like the young kid who was like, "Yo, what are we doing, bro? He's a veteran. Like, why are we doing this?
He's a fucking Green Beret. Those guys are badasses.
This guy's gonna fuck us up. Like, what are we doing here?" You always got to have that.
And they got off easy is the crazy part, and they just kept doubling down, tripling down, like.
And even in the end, like that's what's cool about the ending is like why I pointed out he doesn't kill anybody really because like he kind of kills one guy, but like whatever, he doesn't directly kill him, but like he at the end.
Oh, he's the guy that fell out of the helicopter. I mean he doesn't kill Brian Dennehy at the end of the movie. He could have easily killed him. Yeah.
He just crippled a couple people.
Yeah, no big deal.
Just shot some legs and had the one guy hemmed up like a Christmas tree.
The spike trap.
Nah, the guy that was like tied to the tree or some shit. It was like screaming, help.
He was like
funny.
Fucking like on the front of a ship.
Like, what have I got myself into? Can you just imagine these poor lieutenants in this small hick town? Like, bro, that shit had to be.
They have that character in the movie. It's the dude who was leading the local what is it, the fucking army National Guard. He's like I gotta go back to work tomorrow. Like I don't want to be out here. What the fuck he's saying? I gotta sell cars.
That shit was insane.
Yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to go back and just give a little bit more context to the whole myth of the spat on veterans thing. So this Wikipedia article, it explains it. So it says that there is this misconception or myth that many Vietnam War veterans were spat on and vilified by anti-war protesters during the late 60s and 70s. These stories, which overwhelmingly surfaced many years after the war, usually involve an anti-war female spitting on a veteran, often yelling baby killer. Most occur in U.S. civilian airports, usually San Francisco International, as GIs returned from the war zone in their uniforms. No unambiguous documented incident of this behavior has ever surfaced despite repeated and concerted efforts to uncover them. The few dubious examples brought forward have been the object of much debate and controversy. Only 1% of Vietnam veterans themselves, according to a Veterans Administration commissioned Harris poll conducted in 1971, described their reception from friends and family as not at all friendly, and only 3% described their reception from people their own age as unfriendly. More, there is ample and well-documented evidence of a mutually supportive, empathetic relationship between GIs, veterans, and anti-war forces during the Vietnam War. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke to this in his April 1967 speech, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence, when he chastised, quote, those who are seeking to make it appear that anyone who opposes the war in Vietnam is a fool or a traitor or an enemy of our soldiers. So this is something that is still persistent today. It's a narrative that is not gone away all these years later. Anybody that speaks out against a certain war that's currently going on, what are you? You're anti-American. You're an
you hate our troops.
Anti-Semite.
You're an anti-Semite. So it's still a very popular narrative that is spun, which is interesting.
I mean, if that's what America stands for, then maybe we should all just be anti-American.
Ooh, that was some fire right there. We're getting drone struck. That's it. Channel's dead. It's done.
Good luck.
But yeah, so great. I mean, just awesome overall movie, and I'm glad that we rewatched it because watching it from today's modern day perspective, it actually makes this movie a little bit more poignant than when I, back in the day when I first watched it as a kid, or over the years as I've watched it multiple times. But yeah, and that's the whole core of the movie is his breakdown and how that reframes the movie right after a certain point, as a portrait of a guy who literally has lost everything. He's lost the society that he fought for. He has nothing. He has no job. He can't hold the job. All the stuff that he echoes in that final sort of monologue there. And it's just interesting the departure that the franchise took from that, and how like that emotional core is just directly contradicted by the franchise that really is what most people remember about this character.
Right.
We don't care about your trauma. We hear you're good at killing. Do you want to go do some of that now?
You want to go do more killing? Because we're in the era
Less talking.
We're in the era of blockbusters.
More M60s, please.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of it is because, right, what we're talking about, maybe it's partially because the truth that this movie presented is uncomfortable. So people would prefer the popcorn, M60 shooting, compound
100%.
bow action movie that you don't have to think about. Whereas
just mindless,
yeah, America might prefer the fantasy of the invincible warrior, which is probably likely the case. That's why
Commando.
Yeah. Like that is like nothing is more American than that, and those movies were very pervasive over the years.
Yeah, I imagine Punisher got a lot of influence from First Blood.
Yeah, 100%.
Or did Punisher?
No, in the comic book,
that came before, right?
Punisher. Let's see, Punisher. First appearance. I think he first appeared in Spider-Man.
Castle.
Yeah, he first appeared in Spider-Man in 1974. I don't know when they gave him like the backstory of like a Vietnam veteran whose family was killed by the mob and all that stuff.
I mean, that book came out 72, so but
But yes, he is a Vietnam veteran in the comic books.
I see. I'm just saying, I didn't even know that. I was just saying just his story of like kind of like government over, and he's kind of like
the Punisher is
similar.
The Punisher is the end result of what we see in
right.
Like the Punisher is what happens when the system fails so poorly that it produces a guy like Frank Castle.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So Frank Castle's another very misunderstood character. People like to say like, "Oh man."
Cops are using this. Whatever.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Like, it's ridiculous because you don't want to be Frank Castle. Frank Castle represents systemic failure, not like, oh, here's this guy who does what nobody else is willing to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But where was I? Yeah. So, now in modern day, right, we have obviously more methods and tools to diagnose PTSD. We understand PTSD, like Dusty mentioned earlier. Veteran support is more prevalent nowadays. It's still awful, but it's at least a little bit more prevalent. There's a lot of like nonprofit groups and things like that do stuff. But watching it now, I think makes it more relevant than it might have even been back then, just because these issues still exist today. And I don't
think we've never not hated homeless people as a society.
Yeah, it's like they're looked down on. You step over them. You look past them, and it's just Sorry, hang on a second.
Yeah.
There's a lot of members of our society that are looked down upon, and that's again that's really what the core of what this movie's talking about. Overall, I guess you liked it then, huh, Marvin?
Oh yeah, it was great. I loved it. Yeah.
Okay.
Great movie.
Were there any final things you guys wanted to talk about with it?
Just glad that it wasn't as I remembered it, just like just a generic action movie. I'm glad it was more than that, much more than that. So
Yeah. How about you, Dusty?
No, just that, like you said, that let's circle back to the final monologue. I think when he's mad at the very beginning and he's yelling, that's where to me it feels a little bit cheesy, like Arnold or not Arnold. Sly doesn't deliver. But when he gets there and he starts breaking down and he's crying and he's like talking about his buddy that's all over him that he can't get off and everything else, like he nails that scene when he's he's reaching out to the colonel's hand. He needs somebody to let him know that's okay. Like he's broken down and raw. It's really good.
Yeah.
Even the colonel cries.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I don't think the anger part was cheesy actually to me. I feel like it's like the necessary to do the breakdown scene. Like you can't just because he didn't show any type of emotion before, right? So I feel like it would have been even more jarring, maybe it wouldn't have hit as hard without the anger. I feel like you got to have the anger to do the breakdown to cry. Yeah.
I agree with you. I just think when Sly gets angry, the way his accent, the way he talks, like it just comes across a little cheesy to me.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, so obviously this movie has stood the test of time. Again, I guess in pop culture, the sequels are the image of what this movie is, tragically, and but this movie on its own still is still widely praised. It has a 7.7 on IMDb. Where are we at, folks?
I think it's an 8. Like I said, it's not a perfect movie for me, but it's pretty good. My only complaints are, like I said, it felt like they were kind of a little bit itching to get to the action piece of it. But yeah, it was good. All
right. 8 for you. Dusty, what about you?
Yeah, I give it an 8 too. I love the pacing of this film. I think it does very well. It's well acted. Again, Sly and Dennehy nailed this movie. I don't think it would have been the same without either one of them. So yeah, just great all around movie.
I agree. I'm there with you guys on the 8. It's an 8 for sure. Yeah, I mean, it has its cheesy moments, like popping a wheelie in the middle of a car chase.
Oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
You always got to do the wheelie. Little things here and there, but overall, nothing that ruins the movie or the experience, because it does the thing it wanted to do, and it also shows like this is proof for, like, again, we criticize all these movies that come out nowadays. It's like you could still have a movie be an action movie and be entertaining and do all the things, but also have like a poignant message that it nails home. True, it doesn't have to be only one or the other, right? So
I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, we need to go back to. We need to look to the past.
Thoughtful action.
We need to look to the past to proceed into the future for everything, really. But yeah, great movie. Glad Dusty picked it. I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, for anybody out there who thinks Rambo is bullet chain belts across his chest and crossbows and all sorts of shit, go back and have a watch for First Blood, and get the real story of John Rambo. But
Rambo is not Dutch. Maybe that's how people are remembering him as Dutch.
Yeah. He is not Dutch. Dutch from Predator, you mean?
From Predator.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, folks, there's our thoughts on First Blood. Marvin's thoughts for his first time watching it. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think of First Blood. If there's anything that we missed that you might want to bring to our attention, let us know. If you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out. It's a classic. Well worth your time and maybe money, depending on where you have to watch it or rent it or whatever. So yeah, we'll probably be off next week, folks, but we generally do this once a week. We post our schedule in advance for the whole month, so you can watch along with us. The next time we see you, we will be talking about one battle after another. But you could join our Discord. A link will be down below. It's free. We post our schedule in there, so feel free to join. We also post like trailers and stuff and news things that we talk about. So head on over to the Discord. Leave a like on a video, and if you've enjoyed it, subscribe and all that good stuff. But otherwise, we will catch you next time. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you then.
Basta.
See ya.